One of the themes that I identified in your career as a general and as a soldier is learning, a real commitment to learning through time. So what you know today may not be the most useful thing in your new situation. Talk a little about that, because you're suggesting that your soldiers have to have that also.
Yes. I joined the Marine Corps where the Commandant of the Marine Corps has his own reading list. And all Marines at the rank of private will read these 3 or 4 books. Plus there's a couple other additional ones if they're interested. Every corporal reads a different set. Sergeants a different, lieutenants, majors, generals have their own reading list. When they make general, they're not allowed just to fall back on what they already know. They have to read a different set of books. So as a Marine Corps that in a very accountable way, very abrupt way, frankly, I've been under commanders and executive officers who, if you didn't do your reading, you spent the weekend reading the book and reporting to them on Monday morning. So there was an institutional expectation that you would continue to learn. And frankly, over many, many years, I can, for the younger officers who might view this lecture, tell them how they can become 4-star generals. They can fight enemies who are dumber than a bucket full of rocks. And those are generally enemies who have not had the same rigor in pressing themselves to learn from history and to be curious about the world around them. So as a Marine Corps that had that expectation, and the Marine Corps rewarded you institutionally with promotion, with certain plum assignments, if you did that kind of reading.
Now let's talk about leadership and the essential elements to that. Now, you've had an extraordinary career in terms of different roles. So first off, what is your philosophy of command, really?
Well, it's a great story. The Marine Corps actually attracts certain kinds of young people from our society. So there's the aspect of who joins the Marine Corps. There are many people who would never consider it, and I understand that, respect that, and actually the Marine Corps encourages people who don't think that's the right place for them not to come in, because you need people in this kind of a situation who really want to be there, because they are going to, the veneer of civilization, I'll put it this way, is going to get rubbed off them and leave their character revealed. And if they cannot keep their sense of chivalry around innocent people who are caught up on a battlefield, if they can't keep a sense of who they are, then any leadership they adopt is a mimicking of something else that's not really them. So we want to attract people who have an ethical sense, and then the very tough-minded NCOs called drill instructors are going to make Marines out of them. In that regard, the Marine Corps' view of leadership is very, very simple. That you have a father-son, teacher-scholar relationship. It is to be really coaching more than commanding. And how does that equate to the reality of the jobs? When I was a division commander with 25,000 sailors and Marines, I could probably do the commanding aspects of the job in 10 to 15 minutes a day. Their other 23 hours and 45 minutes was spent on coaching young people who came of their own free will, want to do a good job, and you're trying to set the conditions, father, son, teacher, scholar, so that they can be successful.
There's a quote that I think I have here, if I can find it. You're talking about leadership, and you make the point that the importance of conveying your intent, yes, which is consistent with what you just said. So it's almost as if you need to say very little and rely a lot on this mentoring role that you just talked about.
What I found, Harry, was that the more time I spent thinking about my intent and succinctly describing what I wanted to have happen, the less time I had to give orders and commands during the fight. They knew what to do. I remember on one occasion fighting for 3 days, and I don't think I gave a half a dozen orders over 3 days. And I had 1,250 Arabs, sailors, and Marines under my command. So I think as we look at how we explain our intent, that is how you unleash the initiative and aggressiveness of young Americans who want to do the right thing. They've got a good ethical sense, and you allow them to use their initiative rather than becoming some kind of Prussian, everybody has to have permission to do anything. So I'd spent a lot of time on commander's intent, and I realized as a second lieutenant that probably my men didn't lay awake all night thinking, how am I going to mess up Lieutenant Mattis's day tomorrow? They were trying to do the right thing, so my job was to make sure they knew what the right thing was to do, and then unleash them. And when they make mistakes, understand the difference between a mistake where they were trying their best with the information they had at their age, many times they're very young men, but there's a difference between a mistake and a lack of discipline. And the Marine Corps is very abrupt and hold people accountable for a lack of discipline. They are accountable for it. They're not victims. They will act and behave like U.S. Marines. So it was this discrimination between a mistake and a lack of discipline, coupled with a sense that I owed them the best possible articulation of what my interests were, what my vision was, what my commander's intent was.